On February 28th, when the United States launched airstrikes on Iran, Iran ended up controlling more territory than when the war started. Not less, more. And not just any territory, the Strait of Hormuz, the choke point that 20% of the world's oil passes through every single day. Not only did Iran take control of the strait, the shores of the Gulf Coast countries became gray zones between Iranian and U.S. control. To put it bluntly, Iran attacked the U.S. bases with drones and missiles, and the U.S. retreated to nearby hotels. To understand why this matters, you need to understand what modern warfare actually looks like today, not as you've seen it on TV. Let's look at Ukraine. Boots on the ground no longer mean soldiers storming a beach or racing down some country road. It means drone teams scattered across hundreds of miles, some running reconnaissance, some hunting positions, some coordinating logistics and artillery. They stay spread thin on purpose. The moment they concentrate, the enemy sees it, whichever side, and hits it with rockets. That's what happened at Seversky Donetsk River, Voldahar, Makivka. So even if the U.S. could scatter its forces, what would it accomplish? Nothing but holding a line. What we're watching in Ukraine is a replay of World War I. Static front lines where men die moving them a few hundred feet, and then more men die pushing them back. Russia has fed millions of soldiers into that grinder, and the lines have barely moved in 3 years. Now look at the Strait of Hormuz. Does the U.S. control 20% of the surrounding territory the way Russia controls 20% of Ukraine? No. 0%. Worse, again. Before this conflict, the U.S. had major bases throughout the Gulf states, but Iranian missile and drone campaigns have forced the abandonment or scaling back of those positions. The U.S. didn't just fail to gain ground in Iran, it lost ground it already had across the strait. Lost ground. The U.S. can't solve this with a marine landing or with airborne. Why? Because Iran would do exactly what Russia or Ukraine do, hit any force concentration hard, fast, with drone swarm after drone swarm plus artillery. Sure, the U.S. can distribute forces across remaining Gulf bases and contest the strait, but a contested strait isn't a win. A contested strait is one where ships aren't sure if it's safe to pass. And that economic pain lands on the U.S. and its allies every single day. The clock is ticking. The U.S. Navy, sitting 200 to 600 miles away, it can threaten, it can patrol, but it cannot open the strait from there. All it can do is harass random Iranian towns. None of this is a surprise, especially to those who probably warned Trump and Congress, but were ignored. Then understand that they understand that Iran watched what happened in Iraq and reverse-engineered a strategy designed specifically to make American firepower irrelevant. Iran expected airstrikes from a distance, carrier groups offshore. Iran expected all of it and built its entire military doctrine around surviving it while making the economic cost unbearable. Every day Iran controls the strait is a day Iran wins the war that actually matters. Not the one fought with bombs, but the one fought on whether the global economy grows or contracts. What the U.S. has lost by quickly losing territorial control to Iran is the petrodollar. Until recently, the Middle East was governed by an informal arrangement. Gulf monarchies sold oil almost exclusively in U.S. dollars, and in return, the U.S. protected those monarchies from foreign threats and gave them full access to dollar-based markets, unlike Iran. That arrange is now in the mother of all pressure cookers, and it's about to explode in America's face. Once storage fills up in the UAE, Bahrain, Kuwait, Qatar, and Saudi Arabia, they'll have to shut down wells. And every day a well is shut down, that production capacity is gone for good and the well gets damaged. And every foreign banker or tech worker who leaves the Gulf over instability is unlikely to return. The monarchies face a stark choice: bleed oil revenue waiting for the U.S. to reopen their shipping lanes, which is impossible if you accept what I said above, or sell oil in yuan, cut Iran in, and move on. If they do that, the U.S. will pull all support, and it's up to them to prevent their citizens from overthrowing them. If Gulf oil stops being denominated exclusively in dollars, the U.S. dollar loses something foundational to its status as the world's reserve currency. That isn't a law, it's an informal understanding held by wealthy holders across the globe, and it has functioned like air, invisible, until it's gone. Neither political party takes this seriously. Democrats and Republicans are consumed by domestic politics, and Israel, focused entirely on securing U.S. dollars and weapons, has no particular stake in preserving the petrodollar system that benefits ordinary Americans. We've been amusing ourselves watching the chaos while something foundationally, quietly shifts beneath us. Ironically, the Israelis are like the Scorpio on the petrodollar frog. They're stinging and killing the petrodollar frog, and now they will drown in the strait while the U.S. sails away. This was all theory before February 28th. It's about to become history.